burning some lavender today. Peace, love, and light. So I'll just start my spiel. I am Damri Alma Abe. This is Eden Rose. Peace. And Eden Rose is a way of life. I'm going to just jump into it today, actually. We're not starting here. We're starting here. Alright, the daily divine message for today. I will that you receive it in love and with peace. I will that the messages here are aligned with your easiest path with least resistance. I will that you receive this message along with the feeling and blessing of love from myself and from the universe. The shadow. So it looks like some shadow work is going to have to be done. Oh wow, yeah, the unseen. Okay. So what I'm receiving here, I'll show you these cards because they're beautiful. It's going to be inverted. My apologies. And the shadow. Oh, sorry. The unseen. So what I'm receiving first off is that there is some work that needs to be done, needs to be kind of completed where the shadow self is concerned. And what I equate to the shadow is the lower self, is the devil energy, is the ego, okay? There are levels to the ego. There are degrees as far as how much your consciousness is aligned with that energy, with that aspect of, the physical self. And so what's being called for right now is to dive into that space. And I don't see it in the cards, but what I'm receiving is just that this has to do with so it's levels of your ego, and it's like, how do I best explain this? It's as if there's a layer of your ego that needs to be removed. It's as if there's a layer of your understanding of yourself that needs to be removed. There's a graduation of sorts that you've already completed, but it's almost like you step through the door without shedding the skin. So you kind of have to go backwards, which is this, not backwards, but this internal step backwards, like this stepping back into yourself, to uncover this aspect of the ego. That's the message. Okay, it's also from an ancestral, oh my gosh, yeah. This is also a huge ancestral message. So what you're stepping backward into is not just layers of the ego, it's also the Akashic records, so to speak, the genetic memories that your ancestors have left for you in your DNA. There are aspects of it that need to be woken up, and you won't be able to illuminate those parts of your genetic structure, and therefore opening up your ability to perceive the world in new ways, and therefore create in new ways. But if you don't deal with the shadow self, what happens is you step forward into these new spaces, these new lessons from the ancestors with your old ego, and what that does is it creates karma that you don't need. So instead of doing that, this is kind of like a little warning. Don't forget to continue on with your self-work. Don't forget to dive deeper into the shadow self. The truths about things. There are a lot of things that we believe that we know even. That aren't necessarily truths. There are things that we've learned from, before we could speak. There are things that we've learned from our childhood and our experiences growing up that it has sort of formed our psyche and formed our way of thinking. And so the brain, it has a pattern. The brain follows particular thought patterns and and has a pathway of synapses that lead you towards manifesting the same things. It's like never forgetting how to walk, right? Those synapses, those thought processes that it takes in order for you to put one foot in front of the next, those are so ingrained that you don't have to think about it anymore. The brain just immediately sends those signals to the body receives them, and you walk, you move, right? It's very natural. Well, that's how all thought, belief, and knowing exists physically in the body. So in the brain, there are pathways that are created. So what is needed here is to go back and make sure that there aren't pathways that are there that you never really recognized as, perhaps not really serving. It's time to sort of go in and reset some pathways, discontinue some pathways. The only way to discontinue a pathway, by the way, this is sort of an aside, is to create a new one within the same subject. So create a new affirmation about that subject, create a new belief about that subject, which you use as an affirmation, which allows for you to then continue to think that thought over and over and over versus whatever the other underlying thought was that allowed for you to come into that belief or knowing. So all that a belief is a thought that you think again and again and again, right? So as soon as you change the thought process and you begin to practice that thought more often, you eventually change the belief. That's what we're talking about here. So you've got some options as far as, okay, not an option, it's a choice. You have a choice between sort of digging into it in a very literal way, as in, sitting down with yourself, perhaps writing, or whether it's journaling or writing poetry or doing whatever artistic activity that you like to express yourself through. You have the opportunity to kind of either do it that way or to okay, what I'm receiving is it's deep meditation. It's like paying attention to the things and the signs around you. So there's a lot of communication right now from the from nature that is trying to be offered to you, but you perhaps aren't necessarily getting all of the cues. And if you are, then this is confirmation to let you know that's what you're supposed to continue doing, is to listen for those cues. If you're not receiving those cues, then perhaps this is a message to go more the artistic route for you, right? Make sure that you are expressing yourself in thought and in emotion someplace so that it doesn't, land on nothing. So, well, not nothing, but so it doesn't stay within you. The idea is to move the energy intentionally, with intention. It doesn't mean you have to work out any ideas or figure anything out. It's just about moving the energy with an intention, meaning I'm intending to move the energy, therefore I'm going to discuss it. When you are, okay, hold on, let me clarify this first before I say that. I was going to say, this is a being of great power whose energy that I'm reading, because it's almost like it's unrealized power. There's this immense energy that you have from your ancestral, your lineage, but it's like this unrealized power, and it happens within each individual, and it's almost like part of the karmic cycle that you and your ancestors who agree to bear this particular karma. It's something that you all have had to work through this period of time space. So it's about your independence and stepping forward into your space totally. I get this, it's the Nine of Pentacles, which is very like the single independent person, right? Able to take care of themselves in all ways, whether it's emotionally, financially, what have you. They are able to create exactly what they need when they need it, by relying solely on the universe and their interaction with the universe. So it's a very intuitive energy. So it's looking like, to be honest, when I said there's an option, it's almost looking like this message wants you to have a balanced a balanced approach as far as looking into and working with the shadow self. Because if you get too emotionally into the shadow work, what happens is you can get lost in it, and it ends up being total hermit mode. And I don't have any hermit energy here, so it's almost like you have to look within, but you also have to do it lightly, and to make sure that you're still, what's the word, offering yourself abundance, of an abundance of love and of whatever, the luxuries that you love to do. It's important to feed the ego the things that serve it, and then clean up the ego for the things that are no longer serving it. The ego is actually quite useful. There's no need to remove it. We're human, which means we have ego, we have lower self. So the idea is to conquer lower self. By conquering lower self, that is to know the lower self so well that you're able to appease it, you're able to give it the things that it likes, it needs, it requires in order to thrive, but not overindulge. So it's so funny now, because when I'm looking at the shadow card, what I'm seeing is balance, right? The light and the dark. And although I saw it before, it's popping out even further to me right now, that it's really about achieving this balance. Recognizing the darkness, recognizing the light within the self, and using it to your advantage and to the advantage of those around you, the world. Okay. So there may be perhaps relationships that you are a little bit concerned about. It's like almost like the way in which you focus on the self may have an effect on relationships, or the way you've been doing things within your own life has effect on these relationships. What I'm seeing here is that if any of your work has direct effect on your personal relationships, you're supposed to be allowing the things that fall to fall. So doing this work is going to really shake things up. You might notice that your friend, I hate to use the word friend because that's not really what it is. The people in which you co-create with, the people that I call it rendezvousing. So imagine you are a planet and there are other planets around, or you're an atom, and there's other atoms around, bouncing around. You're going to attract the atoms, the other bodies that are like you in whatever frequency you happen to be in. And so there's going to be a difference in who you attract as you do this work. So you're being asked to not focus on the manifestation, on what's in front of you, because as you shift internally, you're going to see a different type of reflection. So it might not look like what you want it to look like. Remember, we are here in the third dimension, so things manifest at a very slow pace. We're beings of light internally, but we're here in the physical realm, which means we have to wait for the physical to catch up to what our ideas and manifestations are, right? Otherwise, you would think pink elephant and you'd have a pink elephant in your living room, right? Which we don't need. So you have to remember that there's a gap between when you're offering the vibration and when you receive the vibration. So what you're being asked to do here is to focus on the gap. Focus on the I'm offering this vibration in the now, in this presence, recognizing that there is a gap between where you are now and what you're going to receive immediately, and be all right with that, and allow yourself to just witness and sort of be the observer for a little bit. Try not to judge anything, because as you shift, like I said, you might start manifesting all sorts of strange things and different types of interactions. So take it easy, be a little bit, removed to a degree. Make sure that you're connecting, because I see a lot of color here, which means there's a lot of connection, emotional connection with other beings. So make sure that you're connecting, but if you're going to connect with other beings, make sure that you're connecting on your terms, within the frequency that you prefer to interact within. Yeah, and just allow your relationships to transform, and to either transform or to shift and change, right? Some may dwindle off, some may expand, some may, who knows, right? There's a plethora of different ways that the relationships in your life can unfold and will unfold. So you're just being asked to relax about it and not to worry too much on how they'll be affected, because the outcome, what's going to be, in the end is you're going to be surrounded by the energies in which will help you to continue to expand. So you're going to start to attract these beings, these entities that are going to be able to benefit you, even if it's just in resonance, even if it's just like that's a great person to be around in general. Perhaps they don't necessarily teach you anything or offer you anything of physical value, but their vibration itself allows for you to keep your vibration constant, right? It could manifest in any way, is what I'm trying to say. So just allow people and things to be. Perhaps take the approach of more silence for the time being, so that you can be more of the observer rather than the manipulator trying to move things around or teach or offer. Right now, there needs to be a moment of learning for you, of reassessment, assessment, taking a step back, and silence. I'm feeling, honestly, silence. Not too much. I say always express yourself, but it's that, internal silence is a lot louder than you might think. Yeah. So the Ace of Swords is the number one card for communication, and as I'm saying silence, it's the Ace of Swords in reverse, right? No communication. Making sure to intentionally internalize things, not in an unhealthy way, but in a way that allows you to be the observer. I want to offer, just to finish this off, I want to offer a meditation, and what it is just you can do it in 2 minutes, you can do it in 10 minutes, you can do it in 30 minutes. It doesn't matter, but it's just observing. It's observing one's thoughts. So I would sit comfortably. And focus on your breath, focus on maybe a sound in the room that's constant, focus on something that you can sort of continue to find it again and again once you lose focus, and then begin to allow your thoughts to come and to pass and to come and to pass, and just practice being the observer for as long as you can. And if you find yourself getting carried away within one thought, as soon as you recognize that you've been carried away by that thought, take a step back and just start again. Allow that thought to pass and wait for the next one to come. So that is really going to step you into the vibration of what you're being asked to do here within this reading, is to really take the observer approach and perspective right now when it comes to your physical life. So that practice, doing it internally, is really going to benefit you as well. So I'll leave it there. Peace, love, and light to you. I will that these messages are received with love and in truth, and I'll see you next time. Peace.